Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttamah shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nanda gopa kumaraya govindaya namo namah. Hare Krishna. Okay. So today we will discuss, or we will study, or we will the chapter 1, second canto, and the chapter is titled First Step in God Realization. Also it is called Dhyana Yoga, how to concentrate. One thing I want to highlight, we never question, although we are calling these are chapters, but when Shukdev Goswami was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, he never said end of chapter 1, end of chapter 2, yes, first canto, second canto. He just spoke to him from, Janmadiyasya Yato Anvadayatara, the very first verse, and then till the last verse, Nam Sankirtanam Yasya. So he spoke, but then this is a service, great service by our acharyas. What they have done is they have now split the whole granth into various chapters, various cantos first, and it is compared to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is compared. There are 12 cantos, and they are compared to the body, various body parts of Krishna, right? So first and second canto, they are the feet of Krishna. Third and fourth canto are thighs of Krishna. Fifth canto is navel of Krishna. Sixth canto is chest of Krishna. Seventh and eighth canto are his arms, right? Then ninth canto is his griva, neck, yeah. And then 10th canto is his face, beautiful face. And 11th canto is his forehead, and 12th canto is his head. So the whole point is somehow or other we see Krishna, or we can visualize Krishna in whatever we are doing. And that is the essence of today's chapter as well. Universal form of Krishna. How to concentrate. And as I said last time, there are 5 chapters where the universal form is discussed. 2.1, 2.5, 2.6, 2.10, 3.6, 3.26. This is Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami, then Naradji and Brahmaji, then Maitreji and Vidurji, then Bhagwan Kapil and Mata Devhuti. So you would wonder why? Why is it like that? The whole point is, like it said, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 12 canto are various parts, body parts of Krishna. Somehow you visualize this whole universe is a form of Krishna. And there are different levels. We look at different type of sadhakas, devotees, depending on their ability, depending on their at what state of devotion they are, they can take that particular path. Yeah. So all of these And very interestingly, so this chapter is titled First Step in God Realization. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, here I want to highlight one more thing to you. I want to tell you. It is called Dhyan Vidhi और भगवान के विराट स्वरूप का वर्ण. विराट रूप, explanation of virat roop and dhyan vidhi, how to concentrate. Now you might wonder why they are titled like this. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has titled this chapter like that. So once the few devotees asked the question as to where are these naming of cantos. Even the naming of the cantos, there is a story behind this. And they were trying to find out how did Prabhupada name these cantos. And they could not find any reference anywhere. When they did further research, they found in the Jaladuta diary, when Prabhupada was in the Jaldut, in the ship, cargo ship. So there he was writing, he was designing in his mind. He had already written the first canto and he had got it ready. But then the other cantos were yet to be translated. So in the Jalduta diary, they have found that Prabhupada had written that he's going to name this canto like this, name this canto like this. So he was already in his mind, he was thinking. So the idea is, when originally spoken, Vyasadeva did not say 12 cantos, 10 chapters, these many chapters. Or now is the end of chapter 1, tomorrow chapter 2. He just spoke continuously 7 days. But this is for our benefit that these have been designed like that. Yeah. So we understand it. So today's chapter is chapter 1, second canto. And the canto is titled The Cosmic Manifestation. This is the name of the second canto, is the Cosmic Manifestation. You can see on your screen. Yeah.
What is the name of cosmic?
Prabhu, this is called Sarga. This is the creation.
Oh,
it talks about the, the cosmic manifestation, the appearance or the manifest of the cosmos, right? So this, and how we also looked at earlier, Sarga, Visarga. Sarga is the original creation and Visarga is the secondary creation by Brahmaji. Yeah? So we are still talking about Sarga. Brahmaji creation we'll discuss in the third canto. Yeah? So this is about the universal creation, the primary creation by the Supreme Lord. Okay, so that is the title of the canto, second canto, you understand, and the chapter is titled The First Step in God Realization. Okay, and now here Shukdev Goswami is speaking for the first time and he is responding to his questions. Let's read this verse and then we will discuss further. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Smaratavyascha Icheta Abhayam. Smaratavyascha Icheta Abhayam. Word by word translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat. Tasmat. For this reason. Bharat. O descendant of Bharat. You know Maharaj Bharat. Yeah? So there are three prominent Bharat Maharaj that we read about. One is Maharaj Bharat, whose descendants are Parikshit Maharaj. Then the other one is Maharaj Bharat, who came again, who took birth again as Jad Bharat. After his name, it was named as Bharatvarsh, who is son of Bhagavan Rishabdev. We will study about him in Canto 5. And the third is Bharatji in Ramayana. Yeah. Ram Lakshman Bharat Shatru. Sarvatma, the super soul. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Ishvaraha, the controller. Harihi, the Lord who vanquishes all miseries. Shrotavyaha is to be heard. Kirtitavyaha, to be glorified. Cha, also. Smartavyaha, to be remembered. Cha, and. Ichchata, of one who desires. Abhyam, freedom. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries, must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. Please hear. In the previous verse, Shri Shukdev Goswami has described how the foolish, materially attached men are wasting their valuable time in the improvement of the material conditions of life by sleeping, indulging in sex life, developing economic conditions, and maintaining a band of relatives who are to be vanquished in the air of oblivion. Being engaged in all these materialistic activities, the living soul entangles himself in the cycle of the law of nutritive actions. This entails the chain of birth and death in the 8.4 million species of life. The aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the uncivilized man, and then again the human form, which is the chance of getting out of cycle of the fruitive action. Therefore, if one desires freedom from this vicious cycle, then one must cease to act as a karmi or enjoyer of the results of one's own work, good or bad. One should not do anything either good or bad on his own account, but must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. So I ask you to focus on, remember the question, what the question from Parikshit Maharaj was. So this is essentially the answer to that question. So he was asking precisely, he said, Purushasya iha yat karanam mriyam manasya sarvatha. Yeah. And then he says, what he should hear, right? Yat shrotavyam atho japyam yat kritam nirbhi prabho smritam, and then bruhi yadva viparya, what he should not do and what he should do. So 4 things, remember. What he should hear, what he should chant, what he should do, and what he should remember. 4 things. 4 things he should do, and what 4 things he should not do. Same thing. What he should not remember, what he should not do, what he should not chant, and what he should not what? Hear. Okay, yes. 4 things. So these are the 4. So this verse actually answers that question. So while you're hearing the purport, please focus. Prabhupada is answering that for us. When this process of doing work is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, yat karosi, yad asnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat tat kurushva mad arpanam. Yeah. So, hey Arjun, whatever you are doing, whatever you are offering, whatever you are eating, whatever charity you are doing, tad kurushva mad arpanam. Just offer that to me, and that is the only way to not get entangled into this. Yeah. So that is that. Screen. Acha, Prabhu, light. Mere ख्याल से maybe one light. where instruction is given for working on the Lord's account. Therefore, one should first of all hear about the Lord. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify his acts and deeds, and thus it will become possible to remember constantly the transcendental nature of the Lord. Hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord, and by so doing, one will be always in association of the Lord. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. The Lord is the super soul, Paramatma, present in the hearts of all living beings, and thus by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites the association of all in his creation. This process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and it will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. There are many classes of human beings: the fruitive workers, the empiric philosophers, the mystic yogis, and ultimately the unalloyed devotees. For all of them, one and the same process is applicable for achieving the desired success. Everyone wants to be free from all kinds of fear, and everyone wants the fullest extent of happiness in life. The perfect process for achieving this here and now is the recommended in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is uttered by such a great authority as Srila Shukdev Goswami. By hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities, and thus all conceptions of material miseries become completely vanquished. Srila Bhaktivedanta purports ki. Okay, let's do Manglacharan and then we will discuss. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamnam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Savadhetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubha Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhute Mahathir Yaima Puro Vibho Nirmaya Shete Yadamosha Purusha Bhukte Gunan Shodashatmakam Solanka Srishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanaagatam Katha Amritam Satat Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panthanam Sarvaloka Rishi Dev Janma Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Dev Janma Prasannam. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, please bless me. May the right words come at the right time. May I am truly able to glorify Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, and serve all the Vaishnavas. Thank you very much. So in this verse, Shukdev Goswami has answered the question of Parikshit Maharaj. So like I said, Parikshit Maharaj had asked 4 things. And another point that I want you to look into is Parikshit Maharaj asked a general question. He could have asked a question about himself, right? What was his question? He says, Purushasya ihe mire manasya sarvatha. A Purush, a Jivatma, a body who is always destined to die. What is the thing, what is it that that person should do? What he should hear, he or she should hear, chant, do, and remember. Please tell me. That was his question. He did not ask for himself, right? So very general question. Now Shukdev Goswami starts speaking and he glorifies his question first. And he says, Rajan, you have asked a very good question. Is it? Okay. It's a bit slow. So in this chapter, Prabhuji Mataji, there are 3 parts. Part A is the superiority of Bhakti Yoga. Then part B is the, it's Canto 2. It's a bit slow. So first step in God realization or description of the universal form. The section 1 talks about superiority of Bhakti. Yeah, very important. Then the second is the quality of life matters, not the quantity. And the third section is Ashtanga Yoga for attaining the liberation. There are 3 sections in this canto. So Shukdev Goswami starts speaking and he tells Parikshit Maharaj that Variyan Eshate Prashna. Krito Loka Hitam Nrapa. He says, O King, Nrapa. See, very important. So he's using the word as Nri. Nri means living entities, Nrap. And Pa means who takes care of everyone, Palan. Right? So he's saying, O King, because his question is asking for everyone. He's not asking for himself. Right? He says, you have asked a very good question. Variyan esha ye prashna krito loka hritam nrpa. O King, your question is beneficial to everyone, to all the living entities. You have asked a very good question. And then he says, Atmavit samvatah pumsam. Yeah. Shrotavya adishu yah nara. Yeah. So he says, Atmavit, people who are desiring to know about the Supreme Lord, people who are desiring to know their connection with the Supreme Lord, or people who have already realized the Supreme Lord, they will be very pleased with this question that you have asked. Yeah, Shrotavya Adishu, of all the things that are to be heard, this is the greatest thing. Shrotavya Adishu Yah Para. Right? Para, last time we discussed para and apara. Para means which is beyond, para vyom, which is beyond the material realm, right? Beyond this universe, right? Which can take us to the out of this material. So he says, of all the things to be heard, this is the best thing to be heard by the living entities. And you have asked, congratulations, you have asked a very good question. And then he says, Shrotavya Adini Rajendra. He says, O King, there are so many things to be heard about. People talk about so many things. You pick up the newspaper, you pick up the news, we come temperature, weather, etc., etc. He says, Shrotavya Adini Rajendra Nranam Santi Sahasrasha. O King, there are so many topics. Sahasra is in thousands of topics to be discussed among the living entities. Yeah. So many topics. But he says, Apashat Atma Tattvam. Yeah. But people talk about so many things, but they don't see the Atma Tattva. They don't discuss about what is the Tattva, what is my duty. As we said last time, Sanatan Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ke ami? Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Why am I suffering these threefold miseries? So he says, "O king." Now in these shlokas, what he is answering is, I want to bring your attention. He is answering what is not to be done. Right? So Parikshit Maharaj asks, what should not be done and what is to be done. So he's asking, he's saying what is not to be done. So he says, there are so many things to be heard about, but apashyat atma tattvam. They don't see, they don't talk about the atma tattva, right? Graha medhi, right? Grahe naam, graha medhi, graha medhi naam, griheshu graha medhi naam. So he says people who are, now he is describing two type of grahasthas, Prabhupada says. One is the real grahastha and one is grahamedi. Grahastha are people who are living with the family, who have a family, husband, wife, children, but they are engaged in the worshipping of the Supreme Lord. That is the grahastha ashram. Right? And the second category is grahamedi naam. So now Shukdev Goswami is saying, apashyat atma tattvam griheshu grahamedi naam. Those people who are Grahamedi. Now, who are those Grahamedi? So, Grahamedi, Prabhuji Mataji, Prabhupada in the purport says people who are living in the Grahastha ashram, but whose life is revolving around husband, wife, and children. They don't think beyond that. That is their sphere. That is their world. And sometimes you even hear people saying about, right, that this is my world. Right? Once I remember there was one Prabhu in our office. He had put a picture of himself. Right from the, when they do the CT scan, what they do? When the child is in the womb, what scan they do? CT scan? Ultrasound. Ultrasound. So he had a picture of ultrasound. He said, when I was in the womb, this is my picture. So he had started from there, from the womb. Ultrasound, he said, this was my first picture. And then he had built a proper series on the wall in the office. This is how I was in the ultrasound. This is how I was born. This is how I was 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, 4 year old. Right? And he was telling everyone, see, this is how I have progressed. But then somehow I met with some other person and we were talking about it. And we said, what is this? It'll be so nice if he starts recognizing the reality behind this. Right? It'll be so nice if he starts putting the, different species of life as well. And then he will realize that I have not just been this, because these are the Grahamedi. They think this is it. But it would have been nice if he had recognized I was a beast once. I was a stool worm once. I was a bird once. I was in this yoni. I was 8.4 million. He has been through all the cycles, but he had started this and we don't know what will be the next. Whether he'll be there to get his last picture as well or not. But these are the topics of conversation, Prabhuji. That's what Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj. Griheshu Grahamedina. So their life, their little world is just around their wife, children, and husband, wife, etc. They don't see beyond that. And the word Medhi is also used in farming, when they do farming, or they actually put a big bamboo stick in the ground and they tie a bullock around it, and that bullock is just going around that stick. So that is also called Medhi. So his life, that bullock's life, is around that stick only. That bamboo, he's just going around that. So that is how Grahamedi people are. So their life is just around this. That's what they are doing. So this is what Shukdev Goswami is saying to Parikshit Maharaj. This is what people should not be doing. Bruhi yadva vipariyam. Please tell me what we should not be doing. And then he will come to what they should be doing. Yeah. And then he says, how do they pass their time? He says that nidraya hriyate naktam. They spend their night in sleeping. Now these people, Grahamedi, what is how they live their life? They spend their nights in sleeping. Nidraya hriyate naktam vayava vena chavaya. Yeah. And or they associating, husband, wife associating, indulging in that physical relationship. They sleeping or mating, that's how they are spending their night. Yeah. Divacha arthe hayarajan. In the daytime, arth, money. Right? They want money. So during the daytime, they are spending time to earn money. For what? Kutumba bharane nava. Kutum as in their family, just to provide for them, fulfill their physical needs. That's what their life is around. That's all their whole activities are happening every day. And then he says, but now other point to think about is, it is said that sometimes you have sometimes you see people, there are people, they say, oh, I'm passionate about this. Like, I told you this boy was passionate about putting his pictures. Some people are passionate about riding the bike, for example. I have this employee in my office. He went to this, in the France, what they have, Tour de France. He took his bike and everything from here to participate in the Tour de France. And he wasn't qualified to be a rider. He was just following the riders. There are people who are participating in the race, and there are other people who are just riding their bike on the side lanes, and they just feel, oh, I'm there. I have been there. There used to be an ad on TV, where they will say, in this lifetime, you should do one of these things. You should not miss out. Like they say, bungee jumping, jumping from the plane, jumping from helicopter, diving into the water, feeding the shark, etc., etc. They say, you won't get this life again. You should do that. So, those. So what do they get? So the point to understand is, what do they get? So they get a special juice. They feel a special rush. As they say, passionate. I'm very passionate about, isn't it? If somebody likes to do some activity, they are passionate about this. So here, they are doing these activities because they are drawing certain pleasure out of this, isn't it? As a father, we say, I'm enjoying Vatsalya Bhav. Vatsalya means Vats. Vatsalya is related to Vats. How a cow loves the calf. Calf is called Vats. So that Vatsalya comes from cow, licking the calf. Similarly, parents, we say, oh, I see my children growing. I have that Vatsalya Bhav. So that rush is there. So that rush drives them. That rush, people ask each other, what makes you get up in the morning? Right? Very often people ask at work, what wakes you up every day in the morning at 5 a.m.? So there is some drive for someone, right? Everyone has a drive. And the drive behind that, now in the next verse, Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, Deha Patya Kalatra Adishu Atma Saineshwa Asatva Api. And then he says, Tesham Pramatto Nidhanam Pashyan Napina Pashyan. So what he's saying is that Deha Patya Kalatradishu. Deh, his own body. You want to decorate your own body. You want to look good. You go in the society, people praise you, right? So first they want to decorate their own body. Apatya is their children. Right? They think these children will protect me. Or by serving these children, I'm performing the greatest of the activities. By the way, there is nothing wrong in looking after your children. In the 5th canto, Bhagavan Rishabdev also tells Bharat Maharaj and his sons, he tells them what are the duties. He says, Guru Nasasyat, Pita Nasasyat, Pati Nasasyat, Janani Nasasyat. You don't have a right to become a guru. You don't have a right to become a father. You don't have a right to become a mother. You don't have a right to become a husband. Why? Na mochayed yad samupetta mrityu. If you cannot save your people who are under your control, your care, if you cannot save them from the death personified or from the death means getting into the cycle of birth, age, old age, and disease. Yeah, you raise them nicely. We have children here. We have children at home, right? They are singing glories of Krishna. They are chanting Jagannath Ashtakam. They are chanting Mahamantra. They're doing Arati. They're participating, sitting in the programs. Yes, that is good. Because through this process only, they will be able to get out of this cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Otherwise, Prabhuji, Mataji, this is all waste of time. They will again be suffering in this material world. Yeah? So that is the need. But here, Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami is saying, Deha Patya Kalatradishu. Their own body, they think my body will be always like this. But has it been like this? Right? By now, Prabhupada has said 50 years. If you read his purports, I was reading today, and Prabhupada has said after 50, one should be like, this is a sign of death. Death is not far away. It's getting close and close. So he's very clearly saying we should plan some, one prasth or some further activity. Very, very, very clear saying. Yeah. But he thinks my body will be like this forever. Yeah, my children, they will be able to take care of me, or I take care of my children. Kalatra, wife or husband, they are so much dependent on husband and wife on each other. Yes, we will be. And then what happens? Next birth, wife born as a husband, or husband born as a wife, and their association continues. Or they get into different bodies. Right? Pigeons, cats, dogs, anybody. Right? This is how they just go. So that's what Shukdev Goswami is saying, that Deha Patya Kalatradishu Atma Senneshwar. He says they are my army. Sena means army, Senneshwar. He thinks they are my army. They can protect me. Asat Swapi, even though this is false. Asat. Sat means true and Asat means false. Right? They are false. And then he says, Tesham Pramatto Nidhanam. He's so much Pramatto, he's so much bewildered. He's so much attached to them. Nidhanam, they are dying. But Pashyanapina Pashyati. He's seeing, but he's not seeing. Like as a son, I've seen my father pass away. He saw his father pass away. And one day I have to pass away as well. But I'm thinking, I'll be here forever. My children will be able to protect me. And they think, oh no, we'll be here forever. But death, like I say many times, sometimes people give example. This is as sure as death. It means it is going to happen. Nothing can stop. So Shukdev Goswami telling Parikshit Maharaj, Pashyanapina Pashyati. Yeah. So these are the in these 4 verses. So he has described what they should not be doing. Right? I hope we are all on the same page. We understand what we should not be doing. We should inquire about Atma Tattva, like Sanatana Goswami example we gave. Dhruv Maharaj inquired, Prahlad Maharaj inquired, right? Bharat Maharaj inquired. So we have had all these people. Srila Prabhupada went to his Guru Maharaj. Our own Guru Maharajs, they went to, so many Western disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They inquired. So we should inquire. Apashyat Atma Tattvam. We should not ignore that, Prabhuji Mataji. This is high time. This is emergency. We should be very careful. We should not take it lightly. Any time the death can come. Any moment. Right? And then we will fall back into this cycle of birth, death, old age. And this is, again, we should not ignore that. Apashyat Atma Tattvam. We should not do that. We should take care of our families, but we should not be too much indulged like Grahemedi. We should be living like Grahastha. Right? We all should have Archa Vigra at home. No need to have opulent temple, but a picture of, Gopalji, and just offer him bhoga. May our life become around Krishna, not around family. Right? Our life should be around Krishna, not around our family members. Right? Then it will be fine. And we should not be too much reliant on family members. We should do our duties. Please don't confuse. People take it wrong. Bhakti hame nishkam banati hai, nikamma nahi banati hai. Remember this word. By devotional service, we become desireless. We don't become lazy. Even a lion has to go for hunting. Right? Nahi suktasya singhasya pravishante mukhe mraga. A sleeping lion, will a deer go and enter into his mouth? No. Even lion has to hunt. But the point is, Prabhuji Mataji, we are above these animalistic, living entities. We are human beings. Right? Jivasya tattva jignasa. Right? In the first canto we studied 1.2.10. What is the purpose of human birth? Jivasya tattva jignasa. Kamasya ne indriya pritid labho. Jivasya tattva jignasa nahi yascha na artho ihe yascha. Right? Our whole purpose is to jignasa, is to have that inquisitiveness. This is not to satisfy our senses. Right? So this is what we should not do. And then Parikshit Maharaj, and then Shukdev Goswami says, this shlok we have recited. Please repeat. Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari.
Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha.
Smartavyascha Ichcheta abhayam. Yeah. So then he says what you should be doing. So he says what they should be doing. He says tasmat. Therefore, Bharat, right? Parishit Maharaj, born in the dynasty of Bharat Maharaj, right? Therefore, that Supreme Lord, who is Sarvatma, who is Ishwar, and who is Bhagavan, right? Very important. We'll discuss these individually. But he is saying that Bhagavan Hari, who is also Sarvatma, who is also Ishwar, and who is Bhagavan, right? So what we should do, Shrotavya. We should hear about him all the time. Yeah. And Kirtitavyascha. We should glorify that Supreme Lord. And the third thing is, remember that Supreme Lord, Ichcheta Abhyam. If any living entity is desired to be fearless, if you want to be fearless, because as it is said, we pretend that I'm not fearful. We are always fearful. We are always fearful. May not be death at this time, but we are fearful about our circumstances, our family members. So there is that fear is always there. We can become fearless because if we do our duties every day, what we are doing. But if we start leaving it to Krishna, then we can become fearless. But that will not happen just by speaking. That will happen by practicing. And what is that practice? Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, and Smartavya. Hearing, glorifying, and remembering. Right? Remembering who? That Supreme Lord Hari. Now here on this shlok, there are two commentaries I would like to bring your attention. So one is one commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He further, like I said, three words: who is Sarvatma, who is Bhagwan, who is Ishwar. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that in this shlok, because in that assembly, there are many thousands of rishis who had assembled, and they were not all following Bhakti Yoga. Some of them following Ashtanga Yoga, some of them were following Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. Different rishis had come, different mindset. So Parikshit Sukdev Goswami is addressing everyone, right? So why he's saying Sarvatma? So he said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he's saying Sarvatma. By saying Sarvatma, he's referring to the devotees who believe in the meditation, who believe in yoga, who believe in Ishwar, who is inside everyone. Like Tvam Brahmosmi, Aham Brahmosmi, Brahma, he's inside you, he's inside you. That way he's Sarvatma, or also he's Paramatma. Yes. So he says who is in everyone, right? Soul of everyone. And that is a Paramatma feature of the Lord. And the yogis, they are meditating on the Paramatma inside, right? That's how they meditate. Yeah. Gajendraji, when he's offering the prayers, he is also saying, Yogi Nam Yam Prapashyanti. Yoga Randhita Karmano. Very important. By yoga practice, they burn all the desires to perform the actions. Roga Randhita Karmano. Right? Yogi Nam Yam Prapashyanti Yogeshwaram Tam Natosnam. Right? Those yogis whom they see in their heart, I pay my obeisances to that Yogeshwar, Supreme Lord. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Bhagavan Sarvatma. Sukdev Goswami is saying, yes, Shrotavya, hear about him, glorify him, and remember him. That Sarvatma he is saying. Second, he is saying Bhagavan. Now Bhagavan, he is referring to the devotees who are in the Prema Bhakti, or who want to develop a loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Right? Raganuga Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. Yes? So for them, he is saying he is referring to Bhagavan. Because that Bhagavan, who has all the opulence, right? Who has all the 6 opulence, right? What are those 6 opulence? Parashar Rishi has given the definition of Bhagavan, right? Aishwarasya samagrasya, yeah, viryasya yashasya shriya, gyan vairagyayo yaschaiva shanna bhagaitirana. Right? Parashar Rishi, who is father of Vyasdev, he is given this definition. So he is saying the definition of Bhagavan is who has all these 6 opulence. Yes, who is Virras, who is chivalry. There is no one as strong as him. There is no one as beautiful as him. There is no one as who has opulence, like, you can say the Lakshmi, right? There is no one. Gyan, knowledge. There is no one equal to him in knowledge. There is no one equal to him in renunciation. So here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Supreme Lord who can attract everyone. So here, or people who want to develop that loving devotional service, through his qualities, he can attract. So he's referring to that Bhagwan. He's saying, okay, if you want that, then glorify him, remember him, and serve him. Yeah, chant his glories. Yeah. If you desire fearlessness. And then the third thing he's saying is the Ishwar. Ishwar, who is the supreme controller. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that people who are believing in the Vaidhi Bhakti. You remember we studied Vaidhi Bhakti last year. Yeah, Vaidhi Bhakti means rituals, who are performing the rituals. So they are always worried. For example, if I got Archa Vigraha, I want to serve them. I want to make sure, I want to offer Arti, I want to offer Bhoga. Then they are worried that my senses may not be in my control. I might get attracted to something else. I might do something wrong. So in that, they are referring to that Supreme Lord Ishwar, who is controller of everything. So they are praying to him that, my dear Lord, please control me. Please control my senses so that I'm able to perform my duties nicely. So these are the three type of, or three category of bhaktas they have been addressed in this verse. This is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. But Srila Prabhupada says that Supreme Lord Hari now. So that Supreme Lord Hari, he encompasses everyone. All the, you can say, Supreme Lord Hari is Krishna himself, put it this way. You know, all the incarnations, all the expansions, everyone are covered. So that Supreme Lord Hari, who is Bhagwan, who is Sarvatma, who is Ishwar, right? So instead of saying, I'm worshipping this God, I'm worshipping that Ishwar, I'm worshipping this Paramatma. So here Shukdev Goswami says, no matter whoever you are, but ultimately you should glorify Lord Hari. Clear? Ultimately you should glorify Lord Hari, no matter what kind of devotion you are doing. But now Parikshit Maharaj asked the question, and he says to Shukdev Goswami that you have said, Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyasya. Shrotavya is here, glorify and remember. He said, my dear sir, these are the prominent angas of bhakti, bhakti marg. How does it satisfy? How does it cover other people who are following other marg, people who are following Gyan marg, people who are following Karma marg, right? Then Shukdev Goswami now addresses, he says, Etavan Sankhya Yoga Pyam, yeah, Swadharma Parinishtaya, Janma Labha Parapumsam, Ante Narayana Smriti. He says, okay, I've said this for the Bhakti Yogis, but he says, thus Etavan, this much is also applying to people who are in the Sankhya Yoga, who are following the Gyan marg. Right? Knowledge, people who are doing analysis, you know, it applies to them also. People who are doing Swadharma Parinishtaya, people who are in the Grihastha ashram, or people who are Karma Yogis, right? Swadharma Parinishtaya. Some people think, okay, as a husband or as a householder, I get up at 5 a.m., I do my duties, I go do my job, I bring money to the home, I'm providing for my children. My children are educated so nicely. They've got their jobs. Now their career is starting. My son has bought a car. My daughter is doing this. And I've got this much bank balance. And I'm also doing all the charitable activities. And I've performed my dharma properly. Right? So this is how a typical Grihastha thinks. And who has a devotional thinking as well, mindset. But he is more of a on the karma yogi, you know, who's thinking on the karma. Do this, we can do this. Or other people you meet, they like, you know, karma hi puja hai. Karma is worship, etc. So, but Shukdev Goswami says no. This applies to everyone. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, right? But he says the ultimate benefit of this human birth is what? Ante Narayana Smriti. Right? Now here again, there are two different purports or two different commentaries. Sorry. One commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, no matter whoever is doing what, they have to put an end to all of this. Ante Narayana Smriti. If you are a karma yogi, you keep doing your karma, but at some point you have to put an end to that and you have to do Narayan Smriti. You have to remember Lord Narayan. If you are following Gyan Marg, yes, you do your Gyan Marg, you've got all the knowledge, but all the Gyanis also ultimately, they go and surrender to the Supreme Lord, right? People who in Ramayana, Kagbhushan is telling Garudji, he says, Gyan Panth Kripan ki dhar, Parat Khages lage nahi bar. He says the Gyan Marg is like walking on an edge of a sword. Who can walk on an edge of a sword? He says somehow or other they will fall down. If you have a, people are proud of their knowledge. They think, I've learned so many scriptures. I've learned this. I've learned that. Our own Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Guru Maharaj. Yeah. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He was totally illiterate. He could not even read one letter, one word. Only chanting. If somebody says by studying the scriptures, and when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to him for initiation, he said, okay, let me pray to Nityanand Prabhu and that he will allow me to give you initiation. Few times this thing happened. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to him and asked him. He said, oh, I forgot to ask Nityanand Prabhu, let me ask him. And then few times like this happened. Then once again, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him, and then he said, yeah, Nityanand Prabhu told me that I can initiate. Now, think of this. Nityanand Prabhu is none other than Balram, Lord Balram himself saying, initiate him. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if my Guru Maharaj, if he was not performing devotional service, he was only performing devotional service 23 hours, 59 seconds a day, I won't have taken initiation from him. If he was only performing that, even 1 second less. I mean, indirectly, he's glorifying his Guru Maharaj. Please don't take it other way. Please don't see, read it different perspective that who is he to decide his Guru and who is it. No, he's glorifying his Guru indirectly. So he's saying he was 24/7, not even 1 second. He was totally illiterate. All he was doing, chanting the holy name. That's all. And that's how, and he got initiation. So, Gyan Margi also, Prabhuji Mataji, in the end, so that's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. If you are Gyan Marg, you have to put an end and you have to do Narayana Smriti. If you are Ashtanga Yogi, you have to put an end and you have to do Narayana Smriti. Or other way, Srila Prabhupada, in his commentary, Srila Prabhupada says that Janma Labha Parapumsam, that the real success of your life is to be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. But that also means this thing, to be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death, you would have had to perform devotional service all through, right? You can't just remember. You can't just say. Isn't it? I mean, a very simple example. Once they were saying that there was this one, a highly exalted, so-called highly exalted brahmachari was walking, and he was sitting there. There was another one walking, and he had a hot milk in his glass. Somehow his hand shook, and the milk fell on this person. And until then, he was so highly exalted, so great, etc. Suddenly, he got so angry. And then people asked what happened. And then other senior, he said, look, whatever is inside you, that will come out. That will only come out. So if you're thinking you can just remember Krishna by mechanically, no, you will not. So that's what. So his question was that. So Parikshit Maharaj said, you have said these three things, but they are more like Bhakti Marg. What about others? So Shukdev Goswami says no. Everyone has to put an end to whatever they are doing. And in the end, they have to take up the process of Bhakti Yoga. That is why superiority of Bhakti, that is being glorified in the 11 verses. And then he says, okay, I understand that you are saying this, but then he also says, what about Ashtanga Yogis? What about people we say who have gone above the material modes of nature? And then Shukdev Goswami says, no, they are also. He says, Prayen Munyo Rajan. very often all these munis, all these yogis, right, who have gone above, right, who have gone beyond the regulative principles. Prayena munyo rajan nivritta vidhi eshadha. Vidhi eshadha as in who are following varnashram dham niyams and regulations, but who are so exalted, who have gone above these. Right? So he says even they go above that, and then what he says, nair gunyastha sma ramante gunanu kathne hare. Even they who have transcended this regulative principle, people who say that I'm now, I'm beyond this grastashram, or I'm beyond this varnashram dharma, I've gone above that. I mean, for example, I think in ISKCON it is there, if once you cross 80 years, then you are eligible to take, take initiation, etc. You don't have to pass IDC certain. Please don't quote me on this, but I'm just saying this age, there is an age thing. Sorry, that's what I want to highlight. Right? So they say, oh, after this, you are allowed. Right? So, but here he's saying that even they who have gone above, who have so much realized, nair gunyastha, people who have gone above, beyond of the material modes of nature. If you're not affected, if somebody comes and hit you, somebody spits at you, somebody doesn't give you food, you're not affected. You're above the material modes of nature, mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. You have gone above that. Even for them also, Shukdev Goswami says, even they have to engage into what? Hare gunanu kathne hare. They have to again and again discuss or glorify the qualities of the Supreme Lord Hari. And that Supreme Lord Hari is Sarvatma, Bhagwan, and Ishwar, which is today's verse. And he says, okay. And then he says that, how can I believe this? Parikshit Maharaj asks a question, how can I believe this? He says, no. And then he says, Idam Bhagavatam Nam Puranam Brahma Samhita. He says, this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that I'm going to speak to you now, Parikshit Maharaj, this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is incarnation of the Supreme Lord, this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam I learned from my father. Dva paradau dvai payanad adhitvan aham. Right? From my father Vyasdevji, at the end of the Dwapar Yuga, I had studied this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from my father Vedvyas. And then Parikshit Maharaj says, okay, you have studied from your father. What does it tell me? He says, I'm giving my example. He says, Parinishchito api nair guniyas. He says, I myself was above the material modes of nature. I myself was believing in self-realization. Remember in the first canto we discussed. So Shukdev Goswami says, take my example. I myself was above the material modes of nature. But Uttam Shlok Lileya. But when I heard the glories of the Supreme Personality of God. So he is directly answering. Shukdev Goswami is answering, and he is responding to everyone who is sitting in the assembly. People who are followers of the Ashtanga Yoga and all other practices. He says, why go far? Take my example. Parinishchito api nair guniyas uttam shlok leelaya. Right? When I heard the glories of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Achanam adhitwana. When I heard, I got bewildered. Right? He says that my mind completely got grihit cheta rajarishi or rajarishi. Right? My cheta, my whole mind, heart got absorbed into the beautiful pastimes of that Supreme Lord. When I heard that, take my example. So everyone, once again, he's telling everyone. So he's setting up the situation where everyone understands. For every mark, ultimately, it is the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No matter which mark you belong to. He says, I have heard that. And then he says to him that tad aham, yeah, tad aham te abhidhasyami. That same Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, I will tell you, Mahapaurishiko Bhavan. O King, you are Mahapaurish. So Prabhupada says, Purush is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the only Purush. And he is also called Mahapurush because he is the greatest of the Purush. And people who want to know Mahapurush, they are called Mahapaurishiko. So Shukdev Goswami says, Mahapaurishiko Bhavan, I'm going to tell you the same Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that I have heard. And by hearing that, right, by hearing that, Mukund, right, Syan Mukunde Mati Sati, right, by hearing that, your mati, your intelligence, your mind will also be absorbed into the glory of that Supreme Lord Mukund. So he is referred in Supreme Lord as Mukund here. He could have written Syan Krishna Mukund, Syan Krishna Mati Sati. Mukund also is called as the only Lord who can give us the mukti. He is called Mukund. Muktim dadati iti Mukunda. So he is the only Mukund. So he says your thoughts will be totally absorbed into that Supreme Personality. He says yes. And then he says that etat nirvidyamana nam ichchetam akuto bhayam. Yogi nam nrip niranitam harer namanu kiranitam. Harer namanu kirtan. So now he concludes that statement. He says, oh my dear king, therefore, right, people who have any desires, people who have no desires, nirvidyamana nam, right, people who have become fearless, right, people who are yogi, who are doing various yoga sadhana, right, for them also the only practice is harer namanu kirtan. They should only do that. Now Parikshit Maharaj says that, okay, you are asking me to do the kirtan, but I don't have much time left. I have only 7 days left. Right? So now we're going to quality of life matters, not the quantity. So far he is established that the bhakti is the supreme path. Right? No matter which sect you belong to, which yoga you belong to, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, etc. Ultimately, you have to come to the bhakti yoga. Right? That is the only thing. Now he is asking Parikshit Maharaj that you're talking about Harer Namanu Kirtanam, but I've only got 7 days. So here then Shukdev Goswami gives him an example. And he says to him, yes, you've got a time, but then he says, Kim bahubhi pramatasya. What is the use of that life, that long life, which is without making any inquiry about the Supreme Personality of God? That life is useless. He says, I'll give you another example. And then he refers example of Khatwang Maharaj. Khatwang Raj Rishi. Khatwang Maharaj, he was one of the ancestors of Lord Ram. And Khatwang Maharaj, he had gone to heavens. He helped Indra and other demigods in their fight with the demons. He helped them win the battle with the demons. And after they won the battle, then Indra asked him, I'm very pleased with you. What present can I give you? And Khatwang Maharaj asked him, tell me the duration of my life. He said, you have only got a moment of life left. And straight away, Khatwang Maharaj started descending from heavenly planets coming onto the earth. Straight away. And that's what he says, Muhurtat. So he says Muhurat. Muhurat literally means 48 minutes. So he says, you only had 48 minutes. In 48 minutes, what can you do? So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I've got 7 days. You asking me to do Hare Nam Kirtan, or people sitting there. For them, he's asking. So he says, what to speak of the time? In 48 minutes, Khatwang Maharaj, Muhurtat Utrijas Sarvam Gatwan Abhayam Harim. Once again, Harim. Now he is referring to Harim. Hari, who is Sarvatma, Bhagavan, Ishwar. Right? So he says, within a moment, so Khatwang Maharaj came down, he knew his life. So now he is not thinking about, in the first initial words, what did he say? That we think of body, wife, children, right? Saneshwa, that this is my army. He forgot everything. He did not worry about who is going to take care of the kingdom, what will happen. Because he's seeing the death. But we people, Pashyanapina Pashyati. People have gone behind us. My father's father has passed. I saw that. My father passed. I saw that. But I still think I will be here forever. So he says, don't worry about the time, my dear king. Khatwang Maharaj, within a moment, he was able to. So the value of life is that whatever time you have, you spend that time, quality time, in glorifying Krishna, in remembering Krishna, in hearing about Krishna. Yeah, you do that. And then we go to the next set of verses. Now we will go to the universal form. Now he is going to talk about the Ashtanga Yoga. So he says now, when the death comes, so Parikshit Maharaj asked, so he's now, Shukdev Goswami is saying that Antkale tu Purusha agate gata sadvasa. He says, when the death comes, Antkale, when the death comes, you should become fearless. Gat sadvasa, you should become fearless. He says, how can I become fearless? He says, asang, he says, chindat asang shastrena, supriham, deh anu yechata. He says, by the sword of detachment, you can cut spriha, all these desires, all these connections, all these demands. By the sword of detachment, you can cut. Now, this is about Ashtanga Yoga, how they do it. He says you can do that. So Ashtanga Yoga, you can read that? Okay, good. Yeah. So Ashtanga Yoga, there are 8 parts of yoga. Now, and the reason our Acharya says, now Shukdev Goswami is speaking about Ashtanga Yoga, he will ultimately take it, or he will ultimately prove it through this process, that it will lead to the Bhakti Yoga only. No matter whatever you're doing, but you will have to go to Bhakti Yoga. Yeah? So he says that there are the 8 limbs from a sequence from the outer to the inner. So how the Ashtanga Yogis do different activities. So in these various shlokas, now 16, 17, 18 and 19. So Shukdev Goswami is telling now Antakale tu agate Purusha, like I said, you should detach yourself. And then he says you should leave the home. So Ashtanga Yoga, few things. You don't do it at home, you leave the home, right? You take a nice asana, you should sit in a quiet place, right? So he says yama. Yama means abstinences, which you should not do. Right? So he says, leave home and practice self-control. Niyam, the things that you should do. So he says, bathe regularly at a sacred place. Then the third thing that they do is asana. Take a posture, sit down in a secluded and sanctified place. Then the next part is the pranayama, breathing. So he says, now remember Om. Start remembering Om, chanting the Om. And he says, make sure you don't lose sight of that. Okay. So you leave home, you make a nice asana, you sit on that, and then you start chanting Om constantly, right? Whatever happens, wherever your mind gets dragged, you don't lose your focus on Om, right? You are focusing on the Om all the time, right? You're doing that. And how you control your mind now, he says, through pranayama, through breathing exercise. Through breathing exercise, you can control your mind. You know how they control, you control your breathing. Breath going in, breath coming out, breath going in, breath coming out. I mean, these are the Ashtanga Yoga activities. So we're not doing a session on that, but just so you know. So through the mind, so through the pranayama, you can control your mind, you can control your man, right? And then once you have controlled your man, then you are 18th verse, then you're doing pratyahar. Then you withdraw the mind from the sense activities. And here it says, you use buddhi sarathi, intelligence as the charioteer. Okay. Sitting in a posture, you're controlling your breath. Through the breath, you control prana. Your prana is controlled by pranayama, right? Through that, you're controlling your man. Now you've controlled your man. Now you apply intelligence on the mind. By applying intelligence, you are telling your mind to withdraw from those sense objectives. Matra sparshast konte. The sense objects, right? Nose wants to smell something beautiful. Ear wants to hear some gossip, etc. So he says, now you withdraw your senses, right? So that is in the pratyahar. So once you have done that, then he says, dharana, concentration. Fix the mind with intelligence on the Lord's form. Dharana, that's next one. Once you have done the dharana, concentration, then you do dhyana, which is called meditation. Okay, once you have controlled your mind, you are able to think of Lord Vishnu. Then the next stage is you are thinking of the various limbs of the Supreme Lord. This is what Naradji told Dhruv Maharaj. When Dhruv Maharaj went into forest and he was doing meditation, this is how he was doing. He was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he was thinking of Lord's Leela, and he was visualizing his roop. He started from the feet of the Supreme Lord and he was going up. He was going to his knees, then he was going to his thighs. Then he was thinking he's wearing a pitambar. Pitambar is flying. Then he was thinking of his lotus face, then his broad chest, then, wearing bangles. So constantly you are chanting the mantra Constantly, you are visualizing his vigraha, his beautiful form, and you are thinking of his pastimes. This is how you are controlling. And then Dhruv Maharaj was able to realize the Paramatma in his heart, to the extent that the living entities could not breathe. We will read that in the 3rd canto, but they could not even read. No, 4th canto, sorry. They could not even breathe, the living entities. He became the center of the universe. Because he stopped breathing, other living entities could not breathe. So he was seeing the Supreme Lord in his heart, like as if he's standing in front of him. So much absorbed, dhyan, right? And then the last one is the samadhi, which is absorption. Completely reconcile the mind in Vishnu without any other thought. So samadhi also in 3.28, when Bhagavan Kapil Dev is telling Mother Devati, he is saying that in the samadhi state, when you're doing dhyana and samadhi, in the samadhi he is saying they have to do Vaikunt Lila Abhidhyanam, Samadhanam Tatha Atmana, right? Manasa Dharanam, when they are doing dharana, from mind they are concentrating. In the dhyan, even they have to do Vaikunt Lila Abhidhyanam. Lord Supreme Lord, who is called Vaikunt Bhagavan, even they have to think of that Leela. So if there is any misconception about, oh, I'm thinking this, thinking that, so this is what Shukdev Goswami is telling. And Bhagavan Kapil Dev in 3rd canto, 28th chapter, he describes after the universal form that they have to do Vaikunt Leela Dhyana. So back to this. So this is how Shukdev Goswami says that they go Ashtanga Yogis. These are the 8 angas. That is why it is called 8 angas, 8 parts of Ashtanga Yoga. So they are doing that. And it is also, or the very first line in the, where these yoga are described, it is said, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So the whole purpose is to control, is to stop the running away of the chit, of the man. And these are the various angas. You can see, you can read them. Yeah. So it starts with, as you can see, it starts with Yama on the right hand side, Rama. Yama is in external. So you are taking a bath, you are sitting in a quiet place, you are leaving the home. So you are doing that. Then Niyama, then you go to internal, right? Internal discipline. Then Asana, you are sitting in a nice place. Then Pranayam, then you controlling the breath, right? After controlling, then you go to Pratyahar. Then from Pratyahar, you go to Dharana, to Dhyan, and to Samadhi. I'll have to skip through this, right? Now, in the next verse, he's saying Dharana, concentration. Now, what does it do? Destroys the contamination of the mind, which is agitated, akshitam, by rajas, and bewildered, vimudham, by tamas. So here in this verse, Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, when a Ashtanga yogi is practicing this, you should not be worried. There will be very often people ask, Prabhuji, when I'm chanting, my mind is going here and there. All the bad thoughts are coming into my mind. So here Shukdev Goswami is saying, don't worry. You have control your mind for now, but then the past things that you have done, then they start coming back. So don't worry. Just keep doing. You don't have to stop. Yeah. So Shukdev Goswami already saying. And saying the yogi who sees the Lord Paramatma through such dharana quickly achieves his desired goal of liberation. Then going further. Now Parikshit Maharaj asks another question that about this. How is this dharana accomplished? What is a bona fide dharana shreya, object of meditation? Yatha sandhara yet brahman. He says, how? How can I do that concentration? Right? Please tell me. Right? Yad drishi va hared ashu purushasya manomala. How? What type of dharana is that? How can I do it? Who should I focus on? So that all the bad things in my mind or in Purusha, say in any living person, can be clean or removed. So he says in 2.23, he answers that after perfecting the preliminary limbs of Asana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and up to Pratyahar, one can meditate on the Lord. Yeah. So he says, Jitasno, Jitaswaso, Jitasango. Right? Asana, Swas, you are breathing, right? You are sitting, you are breathing. Jitasango, Jitendriya, you got your senses under control. Once you have done all of these 4 things, then he says you will be able to concentrate. Then says how to quickly remove the contamination. And then he says by the process of dharana, right? So in the second row, Virat Roop for a neophyte yogi. Now very important, one should meditate on the gigantic Virat Roop, Dharanashray, the gross material form of the Lord within the universal shell made of 7 layers, and Paramatma for an advanced yogi. So here in the second chapter we will see, but here Shukdev Goswami tells there are 2 types of people, right? If you go back onto this table, you can say people who are able to go to dharana, who are able to concentrate, fix the mind with the intelligence on the Lord's lip. So he says there are 2 types of people. People who are able to do this dharana, get to this state, right? For them, the next state, for them, he's saying, for them it is better to visualize the universal form of the Lord, which is he will describe next. And the universal form, we think this whole universe as the Supreme Lord himself, right? Various lokas, they are in his bodily limbs, right? You see the trees are the hairs on his body. So that's how you can concentrate. And the reason for that is, take for example, let's say, you get those lollies, you get those chocolates, a chocolate which is made in the form of a deer or something, some toys. And sometimes as a children, when you get those different shapes, right? What do you think? Do you really feel like eating it? You think, oh no, it's my teddy bear. It's my little toy. You want to preserve that. Yes. Right. You must have gone through that mindset. So then you start to develop some kind of respect, some kind of love and affection. If somebody gives you just a lolly, you will eat it. But if somebody gives you a lolly, I'm saying teddy bear, but there are different shapes, right? Star shape, rabbit shape, etc. Then you feel like, no, this is a rabbit. So the art around that stops you from eating them. So the similar mode, you look at this universal form. Yes, you say, I want to enjoy this material world, but hey, this tree belongs to the Supreme Lord. Should I really cut it? No. I'm plucking this fruit from the tree. I should not throw it away. This belongs to the Supreme Lord. Right? So people who are able to go to that level, so for them, it is advised that they concentrate on the universal form. But people who are able to go to the dhyan level, the next stage, they are advised to focus on the Paramatma form of the Lord, which is inside everyone. Now you might say that Srila Prabhupada always said we should focus on the personal form. When there is Supreme Lord Krishna, why should we think of the imaginary form of the Lord? When there is a Archa Vigrah, why should I imagine, oh, these trees are Supreme Lord's, hair, when my Supreme Lord is already wearing, such a nice, hairs, etc. But this is for the different people sitting in the assembly, right? Let's not confuse that. So going back again, dhyan, and then how quickly to remove. So he says by process of dharana. Now dharana, for those yogis who cannot concentrate on the spiritual form of Paramatma, the meditation on the Virat form for continued attraction and repulsion is described. Yeah, are we together? You following, right? For them, they are until that state they are doing. And there used to many Ashtanga yogis. There are Ashtanga yogis who say, yes, I want to focus, but I also want to enjoy the material. I have material desires. Yeah, so they will go life after life. Right? They will just enjoy. They want to enjoy, but they want to focus. So many Ashtanga yogis, they do every day. They do pranayam, etc. They are focusing. Then they go back to their sense gratification. Then they come back in the morning. They do their yoga again. Then they go to sense gratification. They keep doing that. But for people who are able to transcend this state, they are advised to then do dhyan or visualize the Paramatma form of the Lord in their life. Yeah. Then dharana on Virat Roop is meditation on visible material objects which infer the presence of the Lord. Right? As I said, so you think this is Supreme Lord. This is Supreme Lord's part and parcel. Yeah. While dharana on Paramatma is meditation on the form of the super soul in the heart. Paramatma is in the heart and universal form is the. Now, So the first step in God realization. Now this is how the universe looks. So here now Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj that this gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is personal body of the absolute truth. Now we think of this whole universe as a body of the Supreme Lord, right? That whole universe, the egg form that we say. So they say this is Supreme, his body only. And so there are 14 planetary systems. They are compared to different body parts of the body, right? For example, Patal is called the sole of the feet, right? Rasatal is called the upper portion of the feet. Mahatal is called ankles, right? Shanks, knees, thighs, waist, and then earth, right? And then Bhuvarlok, Suvalok, Maharlok, Janlok, Taplok, like this, upper and lower planetary system. So you visualize this whole of this as the body of the Supreme Lord. And then he says this gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by sevenfold material elements, is subject for the Virat conception. Right? So outside also, Prabhuji Mataji, there are these 7 layers. So if you want to transcendent, if you want to go to Brahma Jyoti, if you want to get that, then you have to transcend these 7 layers also, right? Agni, Jal, Vayu, the fire, the ether, the wind, all this, the Mahat Tattva. And we will discuss these in detail in the future chapter. But just to give you the extent, the understanding of people who are trying to realize the God through Ashtanga Yoga, that they have to, this is the process that they have to follow. Yeah? And then various limbs of the Virat look. Now this is how they compare. Now Patal is the bottom of the feet. Rasatal are the heels and toes. Mahatal is the ankles. Talatal is the shanks. Sutal is the knees. Vital is the lower part of 2 thighs. Atal is the upper part of thighs. Then Mahatal is earth, which is Lord's hips. Bhuvar is the outer space, which is navel of the Supreme Lord. And then Swarg is his chest. Maharlok is his neck. Janalok is his mouth, face. Taplok is his forehead. Satyalok is his head. Satyalok is where Brahmaji resides. Yeah? And Bhuvarlok, where the Siddhas, Charnas, and other. Now we are talking about above the earth. Above the earth, we have Bhuvarlok, Swarglok, Maharlok, Janalok, Taplok, and Satyalok. These are our planetary systems. So here, different people are residing in these, right? And also it is mentioned, we will study in the Krama Mukti in the next chapter. Some people, like some of these yogis, they go step by step. In this lifetime, they're only able to do dhyan. When they leave their body, they are able to go to the next step, right? Because devotional service starts from the same place where they left. So like this. Then further representation of the limbs of the Virat Rup. His arms are demigods. His ears are, dig devtas. Then his organs of hearing is sound. Nostrils Ashwini Kumar. Mouth blazing fire. Eye pits, outer space. Yeah. So like this, these are various body parts. I'll let you read yourself, right? Without me having to go through. But having done all this, then this is how the form looks. The universal form. This is how you visualize. Right? So in the middle, there is earth. And then there are various, lower planetary system, upper planetary system. And you can see in his chest, in his arms. So basically this whole universe, and you visualizing these various, parts of his bodies that they are residing in that. Right? And this is how then you concentrate, then you get your mind. And initially the first stage is dharana. Yeah. And the second stage is dhyan. And the final stage is samadhi. Then you get into the samadhi. But within the samadhi also, what do you have to do? Vaikunt Leela Bhidhyana. Bhagavan Kapil Dev told Mata Devati. Right? Even then also they have to think of the Leelas of the pastime of the Supreme. Now Shukdev Goswami concludes, he says, thus I have described the Virat Rup, which is the bona fide Dharanashraya for the neophyte or attached yogi. Yeah? Desiring liberation, but they are still attached. Meditating on any other form will cause his degradation. So now you can imagine how difficult it is. Is it easy? No. What will you prefer?
Chant
holy name, right?
Chant holy.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, when he is about to conclude his pastime in Ante Leela last, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Khaite shuite, yatha tatha naam loy, desh kal niyam nahi sarva siddhi hoy. Right? Khaite shuite, you are eating, you are sleeping, just chant the holy name. Right? Yatha tatha, by somehow or other, just take the holy name. There is no rule, desh, kal. There is no rule of place. There is no rule of time. Right? Sarv siddhi hoy. All this siddhi that you're trying to achieve through Ashtanga yoga, through Jnana yoga, through this yoga, right? Consider which one is easier now. Which one will you prefer? Right? You will prefer chanting the holy names. Right? But these are described, Prabhuji Mataji, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, for the purpose so that we understand. So Shukdev Goswami, he had literally, when he said to him that etad nirvidyamananam ichchetam akuto bhayam, yeah, yogi nam nrip nirnitam harer namam kirtan. That would have been the conclusion of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. He had already answered his questions. He has already answered what you should not do, what you should do. And he has already clarified. Jnana yogi also has to do this. Karma yogi also has to do this. Ashtanga yogi also has to do this. Everyone has to do this. And ultimately, if you are fearless, if you have any desires, he's saying if you have desires, if you have become fearless, even if you are a yogi, Harer Namanu Kirtan, you have to do Hari Nam Ka Kirtan. That's it. But now he will speak whole Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chapter by chapter, for us chapter by chapter, and he will be clarifying all these doubts. So we should not have any doubt that chanting of the holy name is the only savior. That is the only solution. Yeah. So we'll stop now. We're almost at that time. So any comments or any questions, Prabhuji Mataji? I hope it was not boring. Because this universal form, focus on universal form, I don't know how best to make it interesting, but I hope you're able to relish it, enjoy it. Yeah.
I just have a small doubt.
Yes, ma'am.
We notice that it's so difficult to even comprehend that we are told.
Yes.
Why is